Today's video will discuss the three main religions, or the so-called three main religions: Abraham's origins or religions Judean, Christian, and Muslim, which are basically you follow the order of scrutiny, or badness. Badness is equivalent to the Judean religion, which I will reveal further on in this video as to why. The same goes for the Muslim religion. The Muslim religion is similar to Judaism because of the perversity as well as their beliefs. Also in that, they're right, and they are never wrong. They are the ones who get to tell the rest of the world in regards what they have to do. Everyone in the world believes that the Jews and Muslims hate each other. In fact, they work together for their American government. If you don't believe this, then look on the internet, it's full of information that shows this is the case. Basically, the American government or institutions are getting paid by Israel. Israel gives America orders, and they then fulfill them under the name of America. Here's some keynotes I have put together in the following clips. Enjoy.
Does Judaism, as it is practiced today, have anything to do with the patriarchs and prophets of the Old Testament? Nothing. Nothing at all. You see, I was raised in Judaism, and we were under the authority of the rabbis whose formulation of God and the world around us was based not on the Bible, but on the Jewish Talmud. Indeed, the rabbinic authority gave the first and final word on Jewish attitudes, Jewish belief, Jewish practice, and Jewish behavior toward the Gentiles, whom behind closed doors we called the Goyim. The rabbis put attitude before everything else, that we Jews were superior to the Gentiles in intellect, in morality, and as a race. And this is all spelled out quite specifically in the Jewish Talmud. The Talmud began as an oral law prevalent at the time of Christ, and it was Jesus Christ himself who accused the Jewish leaders of his day of usurping the message of the patriarchs and prophets of the Old Testament by this oral law, which Christ labeled the tradition of the elders. Enraged by Christ's censure, the Jewish elders arranged for Jesus Christ to be crucified, and ignoring the significance of his resurrection, committed their tradition to writing, which reached its final form in 800 AD in the multi-volume set known as the Talmud. The Talmud, first and foremost, blasphemes the Lord Jesus Christ, calling him a magician who is now in hell, boiling in his own excrement. The Talmud also blasphemes Christ's Holy Mother, the Virgin Mary, calling her a hairdresser, a prostitute who had sex with carpenters. Then the Talmud spews its venom on the Gentiles to be treated less than subhumans, defrauded, cheated, and even murdered as civilians in times of war, though they be innocent women and children. Thus we find world Jewry condoning the atrocities committed against the people of the Gaza Strip by the Israelis. Why? Because, as historian Israel Shahak points out in his book, Jewish Religion, Jewish History, Jewry's disparaging attitude toward the Gentiles has been formed, set in stone, throughout the centuries by the writings of the Jewish Talmud. Indeed, the Talmud, formative of Judaism since the time of Christ, is nothing less than a religion of a tribal crime syndicate. The true followers of the patriarchs and prophets of the Old Testament are those who have embraced the hopes and predictions of those holy men, realized and fulfilled in the New Testament. As a former Jew, now an Orthodox Christian, I'm a follower of the Lord Jesus Christ. What about you?
We're not talking about the West Bank,
right,
where just 2 weeks ago a Christian village ceased to exist because settlers from New Jersey took all their houses. You know, what happens next in the West Bank?
From New Jersey?
Yeah, there are a lot of synagogues in New York, New Jersey, Toronto that have these things called real estate seminars, where you can put your name on a list, and then they call you and say, hey, house just opened up over here in this Arab village that's not Arab anymore. Come and take your house.
You are stealing my house.
And if I don't steal it, someone else is going to steal it.
And 2 weeks ago, the village that the Israelis cleared out was one of the last remaining Christian villages. Drives me crazy.
So, what do you think their overall strategy is? They eventually want to just take over all of Palestine.
I think we should believe the Israelis when they tell us that they believe in greater Israel.
They say Islam teaches peace. If you kill one person, it's as if you killed all of mankind. But then come people like David Wood, claiming this verse isn't for Muslims, that it was stolen from the Talmud, and that the very next verse commands Muslims to crucify anyone who disagrees. It sounds shocking, but only if you ignore context, scholarship, and basic honesty. So today, let's respond to David's claims with facts, verse by verse, source by source, and expose the distortion for what it really is.
Surah 5, verse 32. Even if you've never studied Islam, you've probably heard part of this verse at some point, because it's one of the most frequently quoted Quran verses in the West. After every Islamic terrorist attack, politicians and journalists remind us that such attacks are un-Islamic, because the Quran declares that if anyone kills a man, it's as if he's killed all mankind. They never quote the complete verse, of course, and they almost never give the reference, because if they gave the reference, someone might read the complete verse, and even worse, might read the very next verse. Watch what happens when we read the entire verse. This is how Surah 5, verse 32 is usually quoted to us by politicians and journalists. Sometimes they include a bit more, telling us that the Quran says, if anyone killed a person, it would be as if he killed all mankind, and if anyone saved a life, it would be as if he saved the life of all mankind. But let's see what politicians and journalists leave out. Because of that, we ordained for the children of Israel that if anyone killed a person not in retaliation of murder or spread mischief in the land, it would be as if he killed after that many that continued to receive lists, e.g. in the land. Notice 4 things about this verse. 1, the Quran says that this was a revelation for Jews, the children of Israel. We ordained for the children of Israel. And we know what the Quran is referring to here. This is a quotation from a Jewish rabbi in the Talmud. The Quran says that Allah ordained this for the children of Israel. Politicians and journalists omit the part about the children of Israel so that they can pretend that Islam calls for endless peace and tolerance. Meanwhile, the very next verse, Surah 5, verse 33, is a revelation for Muslims, and it commands Muslims to dismember and kill and crucify all kinds of people. So, 533 justifies terrorism. Politicians and journalists ignore it and go to 532. They do a bit of editing, and there you have it. Islam is a religion of peace.
They'll return with testimonies of Israel's importance to America and the world.
Israel is a friend.
So, by the way, they have no importance to America. Israel is a cancer and a parasite sucking off of America. They have nothing. 1,000 evangelical ministers got invited to Israel, and they went.
Oh,
so,
of course.
Over 1,000 handpicked Christian Zionist pastors are in Israel for special training, focused on the battle of the truth, committed to defending Israel at any cost. These pastors include prominent media figures and social media influencers, many with huge followings, and more than 200 have direct ties to the White House. I wonder
So they're good.
I wonder how many of them have direct ties to TPUSA. The mission is to combat anti-Semitism, and the mission is to combat accurate criticism of Israel's genocide.
It says up top, committed to defending Israel at any cost, including the truth.
Including the truth, yes.
First to go, actually.
This is not a tour of Israel. This is a high-level briefing to commission these evangelical pastors to be partners with the state of Israel to achieve its ultimate objective. Makes you wonder which side of the battle of the truth they're actually on. Do they have team jerseys that read truth and bullshit? And once again, proving at the very top, they don't have any religion that you would remotely recognize, and they're just play acting for the saps. So here, let's watch this.
The group began with prayer and worship on the ancient southern steps that led to the Temple Mount in Jesus' day. Then they visited the Western Wall. Some 16 million people pray at the Western Wall each year. But this is the first time a group of this size has come to offer such a unique blessing and prayer. Each person had a paper with the name of someone massacred on October 7th. They put them in the cracks of the Western Wall and prayed for the victims' families. The pastors met with Western Wall Rabbi Shmuel Rabinovich, who prayed Psalm 121, which proclaims God's protection over Israel. Rabinovich later commended the group for their support.
In Shamayim, pray a few. As God bless you.
They're a group that came to confirm the friendship between America and Israel, to confirm that this world is a world that the Holy One created for good, to reject evil, to be against those who want to do evil and not good.
Rabinovich told CBN News that Israel and the Jewish people cherish and appreciate the support from the U.S. government and the nation's Christians.
We want to say thank you to them for supporting us in so many ways. It's a period when so many people want to hurt us and kill us. On the seven fronts we're fighting, and America stands by our side. These 1,000 leaders will bring our message of thank you to the American people.
People on the tour said they'll return with testimonies of Israel's importance to America and the world.
Israel is a friend.
So, by the way, they have no importance to America. Israel is a cancer and a parasite sucking off of America. They have nothing. Okay, here we go.
Of America and our youth. So I'm on fire to spread the good news about Israel.
Israel's God's place. Jerusalem is God's place for God's people, and we need to support them. We need to. They need to know that the evangelical community is their best friend.
Why?
Julie Stahl, CBN News, the Western Wall, Jerusalem.
Because Israel doesn't even like Christians. They spit on them, and they kill them and blow them up. Here, this is from ACNS News Service. Christian leaders appeal for an end to the destruction of churches and the indigenous Christian presence in Gaza and occupied West Bank. That's what Israel does to Christian churches and Christians in Gaza and West Bank.
We don't like those kind. They're not connected to the Moonies like CBN and every one of them.
So
for some reason, they're all connected. That weirdo Mooney cult and Zionists and the Judeo-Christian fake term, that's all connected in one thing. It's very interesting.
So in a gesture and a show of friendship, Israel continues to blow up churches throughout the region. We're sending
Nigeria, cut it out.
Hey, we're sending them to heaven. Isn't that what they want? Oi. So here's only Israel could bomb a Baptist hospital in Gaza and prevent 44,000 Palestinian Christians from Jerusalem on Palm Sunday and still have evangelical Christians flying their flag in church today with God Save Israel, fake pastors shouting genocide propaganda from their pulpits. Hey, you can't run an operation saving the lives of the people that our greatest ally is trying to get rid of. Come on. And so here they are. Here they are spitting on Israelis spend their morning spitting and harassing Christian tourists, saying, "We don't like your God." You think I'm kidding?
I thought it was all the same God. Oh, no.
Here, watch this. Watch this. Here they are.
Judaism, Christianity, and Islam are called Abrahamic faiths because their main prophet's family tree traces their origin back to the same central figure. This shared lineage stretches all the way back to Adam, the first human and the first prophet of God, as mentioned in Torah, Gospel, and Quran. Logically speaking, there should have been one Abrahamic faith on this planet, but today we have at least three. So let's deep dive why we have three religions, and also what religion did Adam, Noah, and Abraham preached and practiced. Whether someone is Jewish, Christian, or Muslim depends on who they consider to be the last prophet of Abrahamic faith. In other words, where they draw the end line of prophethood in this tree. This difference in belief has divided the group into three parts. Let me explain what do I mean by this. The first group of people followed the Abrahamic faith and believed in all the prophets, starting from Prophet Adam. However, based on certain scriptures, they believed that Malachi, who lived in 5th century BC, was the last prophet of their generation. After him, they believed that prophethood ceased until the anticipated return of the Messiah. According to them, anyone claiming to be a prophet after Malachi would be considered a false prophet, which means these two prophets. And hence, the prophetic line for them ended here. These people identified themselves as Jews and upheld the teaching and monotheistic beliefs passed on by Moses and Malachi until this day. On the other hand, second group of people believe that the line of prophethood in the Abrahamic faith concluded with Jesus. This means they accepted all the prophets recognized by the Jews as well as Jesus Christ as the prophet of God. Therefore, they regard the Old Testament, the sacred text of Judaism, as the Word of God alongside Gospel, which is the New Testament. This group calls themselves Christian. Now, I'd like to mention one thing here. Some of the people from this group also started claiming Jesus to be the God. But this is a topic for some other time, whether he was a God or a prophet. For now, let's go with what is written in Gospel of Luke, chapter 24. About Jesus of Nazareth, they replied, "He was a prophet, powerful in word and deed before God and all the people." Finally, the third group, around 6th century AD, believed that the last prophet of the Abrahamic faith is Prophet Muhammad. For this reason, they accepted all the prophets from Adam to Muhammad as the prophets of God. Moreover, they also believed in all the sacred books sent by God, which are the Gospel brought by Jesus and the Torah brought by Moses, along with the Quran. These groups call themselves Muslims. Therefore, Muslims consider the prophetic line to have ended with Prophet Muhammad, whom they regard as the final messenger of the Abrahamic faith sent by God to all of humanity. This clearly shows that three groups emerged based on the differences in belief of who they consider to be the last prophet of God. For this reason, if you look closely on a very high level, the key difference between Jewish belief and Islamic belief revolves around whether Jesus and Muhammad are prophets of God.
1. The Tanakh. Tanakh is the Hebrew name for the Hebrew Bible, known to most English speakers as the Old Testament, but obviously they don't call it that since they don't recognize a New Testament. The Tanakh is actually a trilogy, and the word Tanakh is made up of the names of the three sections of the Hebrew Bible: T for Torah, N for Nevi'im, and K for Ketuvim. The first section, the Torah, is the most sacred book of the Jewish people. The Torah consists of the 5 books shown here and is sometimes called the 5 books of Moses. Let's summarize this very long and very sacred book in a few paragraphs. Should be easy. In the beginning, God creates the world in 6 days and then has a deserved rest on the 7th. Later on, God starts talking to a guy named Abraham the Hebrew. He tells Abraham to leave his home in Mesopotamia and go to a land called Canaan, which is here. God makes a deal or covenant with Abraham, promising,
"I will make of thee a great nation,"
and offers
the whole land of Canaan
to him and his descendants. To seal this special covenant, God said unto Abraham,
"Every man-child among you shall be circumcised."
I assume Abraham was like, we're gonna do what now?
"Ye shall circumcise the flesh of your foreskin, and it shall be a token of the covenant betwixt me and you."
Circumcision was a symbol literally cut into the flesh of the Jewish people to show their covenant with God, and has been done by every Jewish male for thousands of years. The covenant is extremely important in Judaism. Later, Abraham's grandson, called Jacob, literally wrestles with God or an angel of some sort for an entire night. So from then on, Jacob will be called Israel, one that struggles with God. Jacob/Israel has 12 sons, and their descendants will become known as the children of Israel or Israelites, and give their name to the land of Canaan, now known as Israel. The children of Israel would be enslaved in Egypt, but then one of them called Moses would, under God's guidance, lead the Israelites out of Egypt. Moses and his people arrive at Mount Sinai, and here God gives Moses the entire Torah, which contains 613 mitzvah, or commandments, the most famous of which is the 10 Commandments, written on 2 stone tablets. This new covenant requires Jews to worship only this God, and to follow his commandments. In return, God will bless the Jewish people and make them a holy nation living in the Promised Land, which is Israel. The Israelites would eventually form a kingdom, and one of their kings, Solomon, builds a holy temple in Jerusalem, which houses the Ark of the Covenant and becomes the sacred heart of Jewish worship. Ironically enough, Solomon's kingdom would cut itself in two. Israel, populated by 10 tribes descended from the sons of Jacob in the north, and Judah, populated by the other 2 tribes, primarily the Judah in the south. In 722 BCE, the Assyrians conquered Israel, leaving Judah as the sole surviving Jewish kingdom, which is why this guy, Judah, a random son of Jacob, and not even the one with the dazzling coat of many colours, gave the religion of Judaism and the Jews their name. In 586 BCE, the Babylonians conquered Judah, demolished the Holy Temple, and sent the people into exile and slavery in Babylon. The destruction of the Holy Temple and the Babylonian exile is a heartbreaking historical event for Jewish people. But then, in 539 BCE, along came Cyrus with his big Persian army and cool hat. He wrecks the Babylonians, frees the Jews, and rebuilds the Holy Temple, the Talmud. So we already saw the Tanakh, but another book is also extremely important to the Jews, the Talmud. The Talmud is a collection of different books and is over 10 million words long and covers 38 volumes. It is a massive collection of commentary on the Torah and on itself about how the Torah and its commandments should be interpreted. It's filled with debate, legal interpretations, history, ethics, philosophy, and legends. Within a few lines, you can see rabbis that lived centuries apart debating a topic in the Talmud. It's pretty interesting. It provides the foundation for Jewish law and is a guidebook for Jewish life. So those are some of Judaism's beliefs. But Judaism is more than a religion. It's also a people, nation, culture, and civilization, but not a race. There are black, Asian, and white Jews. There are people who are born Jewish and people who convert to Judaism. There are atheist, agnostic, and a buffet of different levels of religious Jews. According to Jewish law, a Jew is a child born of a Jewish mother, or a person who converts to Judaism. Some modern Jewish denominations also now accept descent through the father. Since the medieval period, there have been 2 major groups of Jewish people, Ashkenazi and Sephardi. The Ashkenazi are the Jewish community that developed in Central and Eastern Europe. They speak Yiddish, a combination of Hebrew and the languages of Central Europe. Yiddish words like bubkis, chutzpah, and klutz are familiar in English-speaking pop culture because most Jewish immigrants to the United States were Ashkenazi. The Sephardi Jews are descendants of the Jews of Spain and those who fled from Spain to other Mediterranean countries and North Africa. They have their own language, Ladino, a combination of Hebrew and Old Spanish, but unfortunately this language is under serious threat of extinction. There are also communities of Jews who do not fall into these 2 categories, such as the Jews of Iraq and Iran, Yemen, Ethiopia, China, and Georgia, along with many others. All these different groups make up the diverse range of Jewish belief and culture. What many Americans and Europeans think of as Jewish culture or Jewish food is really Ashkenazi culture and Central and Eastern European food adapted to Jewish kosher laws. An Ashkenazi will eat schmaltz herring, while a Sephardi will enjoy couscous. An Ashkenazi will celebrate with a glass of schnapps. A Sephardi will go for some arak. Ashkenazis call Saturday Shabbos, Sephardis call it Shabbat. Before the Second World War, about 9 million Jews lived in Europe, 5 million in the Americas, 800,000 in Asia, 600,000 in Africa. It was just above 15 million in total. About 6 million Jews were systematically murdered during the Shoah, the Hebrew term for the Holocaust. The emigration, expulsion, and extermination of Jews from their old heartlands during the 20th century has made North America and Israel home to the majority of modern Jews. Today there are many different denominations of Jews, ranging from Jewish atheists to Orthodox Jews. Orthodox Jews believe that the Torah is the direct word of God, and they strictly follow its words and commandments. The best known Orthodox Jews are the Hasidic Jews, due to their recognizable and distinct fashion, which has been appropriated by hipsters. There is also Reform, Conservative and Reconstructionist Judaism, who all cover a wide range of beliefs, from not believing in a personal or supernatural God and thinking ritual and ceremony have no place in the modern world, to believing in God and the Torah, but changing their interpretations as society evolves. Shabbat, or the Sabbath, or Saturday, is the 7th day of the Hebrew week, and the most important day for Jews. Since God rested on the 7th day, Jews do the same. It is a day of physical and spiritual rejuvenation. Jewish law prohibits any work on Shabbat. Activities such as doing business, spending money, shopping, housework, driving, using electricity, or even using the phone are discouraged, while things like prayer or reading are encouraged. The laws of kosher regulate the Jewish diet. What is kosher? Well, according to the Torah and Jewish law, all vegetables, fruits, grains, and nuts are kosher. When it comes to meat, a kosher animal is one that both chews its cud and has a cloven hoof. Don't worry, I didn't know what cud was either. Cud is a bit of food that an animal chews and then swallows and then vomits back into their mouth and then chews it again, which is why some animals kind of just appear to be chewing all the time. Examples of kosher animals are cattle and sheep, while non-kosher animals include pigs, dogs, rabbits, and, well, humans actually. Kosher animals must also be killed in a certain way, called shechita. This method uses a trained professional with an incredibly sharp knife to deliver a quick death to the animal. Finally, all the blood must be drained from the animal because blood isn't kosher. Today, kosher food can be bought from kosher shops or recognized by special kosher symbols on products. All shellfish, birds of prey like eagles or owls, and fish without both fins and scales like sharks, whales, and porpoises are not kosher. From the destruction of the Second Temple in 70 CE until today, the synagogue has been the centre of Jewish life and worship. In every synagogue you'll find a handwritten Torah scroll, which is read aloud during services. You'll also find a rabbi. A rabbi is a trained Jewish scholar and interpreter of Jewish law. They conduct many Jewish events such as circumcisions, bar and bat mitzvahs, weddings and funerals. While there, you may notice some people wearing a kippah, also known as a yarmulke, on their heads. Judaism originated in the Middle East, where a sign of respect to God is to cover one's head. Orthodox Jews believe that they are always in the presence of God, so they wear a kippah at all times, while more liberal Jews wear a kippah sometimes. You might also notice that many Orthodox Jews have long curly hair on the sides of their head. These are called peyot, and Orthodox Jews do not cut the hair because of a command in the Torah that says, "Ye shall not round the corner of your heads."
Mishnah, whatever the Hebrew is there, it has already been established in a previous Mishnah above 10b that a woman who is presumed to be a virgin at the time of her marriage is entitled to a ketubah of 200 denarim, whereas a woman who is presumed to be a non-virgin at the time of her marriage is entitled to a ketubah, marriage agreement is what a ketubah is, of 100 denarim, a mina, whatever. The Mishnah we are about to consider continues in its efforts to determine which women are considered virgins for the purpose of the ketubah and which are treated as non-virgins. If a grown-up man has intercourse with a less than 3 years old, are you seeing this? And they're not condemning this. Or if a young boy less than 9 years old has had with a grown woman, or if a woman has been injured by a stick and as a result her, has been ruptured, in each of these cases the woman is entitled to a ketubah of 200 denarim when she marries. Okay, and you can keep on reading there. You can pause it and read it if you really want to.
Ibn Abdullah was born in 570 in the Arabian town of Mecca. He had a difficult childhood. His father died before he was born, and he lost his mother when he was only 6, so he was ultimately raised by an uncle, a merchant who taught Muhammad many tricks of the trade. Muhammad learned quickly, and by the time he was a teenager, he had earned the nickname El Amin, the one you can trust. As he grew older, Muhammad became aware of the moral deficiency of his fellow Meccans. They worshipped idols, neglected women and the poor, and were materialistic. He was increasingly disturbed by this reality and began to spend more and more time alone, meditating and fasting. According to Muslim tradition, it was during this period that Muhammad received a life-changing revelation in the form of the angel Gabriel. Gabriel commanded Muhammad to spread the belief in one God, or Allah in Arabic, and recite divine verses that would eventually be included in the Quran, Islam's central religious text. 3 years later, Muhammad set out to share his vision. But while the minority Jews and Christians believed in a singular God, most of the surrounding Arabs were polytheists and did not. This didn't deter Muhammad, however. In the beginning, he managed to convert around 40 people in spite of opposition from the merchants of Mecca, whose trade depended on the city's pagan rites and religious sites. In 622, an assassination threat forced Muhammad and his small band of followers, known as the Companions or Believers, to flee to Medina, a city almost 300 miles away. The people of Medina responded more favorably to Muhammad's message, perhaps because of their contact with the many monotheistic Jewish tribes who had lived in the region for generations. Muhammad believed in the same attributes of God that the Jews did, and even adopted many Jewish customs. He and his followers prayed toward Jerusalem, fasted on the Jewish Day of Atonement, and adhered to dietary laws that shared striking resemblance to Judaism's dietary laws, kashrut. He also adopted the Jewish ritual of circumcision. Muhammad assumed that because of these similarities, the Jews would look favorably upon Islam and be willing converts. But he was wrong. The Jews put up a strong resistance to Muhammad's claims of prophecy. For starters, Muhammad claimed to be a prophet centuries after the end of the Jewish era of prophecy. Malachi, the last Jewish prophet, had died some 1,000 years earlier. And according to Jewish tradition, the seal of prophecy was only to be reopened when the Jews were able to return to their spiritual center of Jerusalem at the end of days. It was also unacceptable to the Jews that Muhammad viewed Jesus as a prophet. In addition to conflicting religious beliefs, the Jews were concerned that, like Jesus, Muhammad would be deified, and they would once again experience terrible persecution. As time went on, relations devolved further. Muhammad and his believers levied accusations of treachery against the Jews, and they fought and massacred many. When they laid siege on the forts of the Jewish tribe of Banu Qurayza, all of the men were beheaded and the women and children enslaved. Who survived? The few who agreed to convert. Muhammad reportedly said, "Had only 10 Jews or 10 rabbis followed me, every single Jew on earth would have followed me." In 628, Muhammad's now 700 followers attacked Khaybar, the largest Jewish community of the Arabian Peninsula, and burned down their date palm groves, destroying their main source of livelihood. The Jews were then forced to surrender and give up 50% of their harvest as a form of taxation. This tax, known as the jizya tax, was a means of humiliation and discrimination that would endure for centuries in Islamic law. After his death, Muhammad's followers continued to conquer the Middle East, both militarily and ideologically. Within 10 years, they conquered the land of Israel, then known as Palestine, Syria, Egypt, Mesopotamia, and Persia. They advanced across North Africa and in 711 conquered Spain. By the middle of the 8th century, 90% of the world's Jews were living under Muslim rule. In Islam, the Jews had a new adversary, but no generalizations can be made about Jewish life under Islamic rule. It was as varied as the rulers that reigned. Although Jews were allowed to practice their religion, they were always treated legally as second-class citizens, officially designated dhimmi status, and subject to strict rules. If the Jews kept their heads down and paid the heavy annual tax, they could generally live without fear of forced conversion, massacre, or expulsion. And while the system occasionally broke down, this relative freedom enabled a flourishing of Jewish thought and set the stage for some of Judaism's most influential scholars and philosophers.
Ready? Merry Christmas! You've been celebrating this holiday for years, yet Jesus nor his disciples ever did. So where does this tradition come from? Saturnalia, a Roman Greek festival where gifts would be exchanged to celebrate the pagan god, Saturn. The evergreen tree, worshipped for immortality and eternal life. But you know it as the Christmas tree. This is devil worship disguised as religion. So protect your family and don't get caught lacking.
Head of the baby Jesus was decapitated at a nativity scene, then stolen overnight after a pro-Palestine mob gate-crashed Brussels Christmas markets and chanted Hamas slogans in the street. The mayor of Brussels confirmed the head of the figurine of Jesus was stolen after being decapitated by an unknown culprit who took off with the head but left the body in place Friday night. The mayor's spokesman said they would replace the baby Jesus' head. The opening of the Christmas markets and switch on of the lights at the main square was gate-crashed by a mob of pro-Palestine protesters. In this video, they can be seen chanting pro-Hamas slogans and letting off smoke bombs as families try to enjoy the Christmas festivities. The Brussels nativity scene has been target for similar acts of vandalism over the years. In 2017, the entire baby Jesus doll was stolen, never to be recovered. In 2014, protesters removed the Christ child's head, and in 2015, 3 youths vandalised the scene overnight. This year's nativity is believed to have cost Brussels €60,000 and will remain on display until the 4th of January, and was already subject to controversy. The council had removed the use of the term Christmas from the display, opting instead to call the scene Winter Wonders in order to be more inclusive. This was unable to deter the pro-Palestine mob who brandished the Palestinian flag as it barged onto the square and let off the smoke bombs. Fears have been raised over the security of celebrations across Europe in the run-up to Christmas. Markets across Germany, France and the UK have seen barriers erected around the perimeter, and armed police are set to guard them. Last year saw a terror attack in the German town of Magdeburg, which killed 6, including a 9-year-old boy, and injuring 323. German councils say security costs have risen 44% in just 3 years. What's been described as a huge security operation is underway in Britain, as Christmas markets come under a terror alert.
Decided to recite and chant their Qurans.
I don't know what they are doing. وريهم. خير إن شاء الله. خليها تكميل ثم أروح إن شاء الله. I will go إن شاء الله recite some Quran. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ياسين والقرآن الحكيم إنك لمن المرسلين على صراط مستقيم تنزيل العزيز الرحيم لتنذر قوما ما أنذر آباؤهم فهم غافلون.
This is Milan, guys. Islamists climb statues, wave foreign flags, and then blast music solely to disrupt the family Christmas market. Europe is unrecognizable.
In the last few videos, we went through Judgment Day in the Quran and compared it to the Talmud. Well, in this video, we're going to do a general overview of the different sections of Judgment Day, and then also update our final count that we're working towards right now. So, going through, we have at least 15 different ideas of Judgment Day that are copied directly from the Talmud, from the rabbis, into the Quran. They are Judgment Day being ushered in via a trumpet call or a shofar blast. We get this in Rosh Hashanah 16b 12. We also get in the Mishnah, Rosh Hashanah 1-2, we get that a trumpet blast will happen because Judgment Day is supposed to be happening on Rosh Hashanah. So Judgment Day is ushered in the Quran all over the place. We get that there's this threatened day that comes with the trumpet blast. Well, threatened day is Judgment Day. So that same motif is identical between them. We also have in Rosh Hashanah 16b 12 through 15, Hakiga 16a 17, Shabbat 119b 3, and Koleth Rabbah 12:14, that there are angels writing the books on Judgment Day that are on our shoulders, that are noting every single thing we do, and that those books will be opened, a good book and a bad book, a left-handed and right-handed book, full of your good deeds and your bad deeds, and those will be what's used on Judgment Day, and they'll have these scales before God. He will weigh your books on the scales, and in his mercy, he will remit the worst of what you do and add to the best of what you do. all of that is deeply Talmudic. We also get that those who study or follow the book will be saved. In Avodah Zorah 2a through 3b, we have so many sections that are copied directly, as I pointed out in the last video. We get that you have to follow the book in order to be saved. You get that we are not allowed to enter into God's presence as one group, as one sect of humanity, but that every sect of humanity will be broken up into their different tribes, and will have their imams, their leaders, as the representatives who will help them be judged. So we're going to have individual judgments. We're also going to have corporal judgments, group judgments on the day of judgment. We also get that idols will witness against their idolaters, that they will come alive and be allowed to speak and be allowed to testify against those who claim that they would never actually worshipped. But we also get that those who deny the resurrection and who deny the Torah are kafir. They are subject to hellfire, and they will be in the blaze on the day of judgment. So those who deny the resurrection, those who deny Allah, those who deny the book, the Quran, the Torah, they will be in hellfire. We also get that the Quran was given to all people groups in their language, and they rejected it up until the people of the Jews, the people of the book, accept it, and that they also had a mountain hovering above them as a threat to accept the book. And then the people are speaking out, well, of course they accepted the book, you threatened them with death. That's unjust, you're being a tyrant. And then God affirms, no, I'm not being a tyrant, I will never be a tyrant on the day of judgment. So we get the idea of God being a tyrant on the day of judgment, that there will be fair justice done to every person, that no person will be wronged in their judgment, all coming from the rabbinic sources in these sections. We also get, for the test, those who had never accepted the book, never heard of the book, they will be tested on Judgment Day by hellfire. And this fire in the Talmudic source is the heat of the sun, and in the Islamic source it is the fire of Gehenna. Either way, the people have to be willing to endure it and suffer the fire obediently to God in order to enter into paradise, the world to come. And those who don't, those who reject that test, are going to be put into the real fire of Gehenna. You also get that body parts are witnesses. In Haggai 16a, verse 17, we get that the limbs of the people will testify against them. So not only will the earth testify against you, the heavens will testify against you, the Torah will testify against you, the limbs of your bodies will testify against you. So we have the books, the angels, your own body parts, your own soul will testify on the day of judgment against your actions, against what you used to do. So those motifs of everything becoming, being able to speak and coming alive and be able to testify on the day of judgment, that comes from the rabbis as well. We also get the black faces on the day of judgment, being sooty like the bottom of a pot, because of the smoke and ash of Gehenna. Those who reject God will have their faces blackened on the day of judgment. We also get bodily resurrection from the graves. All over the Quran and all over the Talmud, we get that bodies are going to be resurrected from dust, from ash, from nothingness, that God can recreate us from the dust. And there's proofs in both books that are similar on how God can do it. So we get so much of this content directly from the rabbis. It's actually kind of staggering how much there is. We also get that there will be those who testify against them during Judgment Day. They will deny having worshipped false gods. They'll deny being a mushrik. They'll deny not having the book, not having the ability, the hujjah, in order to defend themselves. They'll say, we're just ignorant of it. And then God doesn't let them do that. He calls them fools. And he says that your money and your actions cannot spare you. None of your defense, nothing can come to your defense on Judgment Day. You have no partners. You have nothing that can intercede for you on Judgment Day. So we have similar ideas, and overall, if you take all of it together collectively, it seems like it is sahih that this passage is taken from the rabbis, that these passages are taken from the rabbis.
In case you haven't already seen it, here's the video of a Muslim woman blowing out the candles on a menorah. By the way, these are the same people that go to Christmas markets and yell Allahu Akbar. Can someone remind me whose decision it was to import 7th century Islamic savages into modern Judeo-Christian countries? I mean, is this what multiculturalism and diversity is supposed to look like? Because if this is what multiculturalism and diversity is supposed to look like, I don't want it. This kind of multiculturalism and diversity belongs in the trash along with their 7th century Islamic jihadi ideology. I'm really getting sick of dealing with and seeing this savage behavior over and over and over again. No matter where they go, it's just hatred, it's just terrorism. And then as soon as you want to point it out, they pretend they're the victims and they're like, Islamophobia. Yeah, I'm so sick and done. I'm so sick and done with this.
Now, as seen in the previous clips, this is the reason all religions are obsolete, except for the Gospel of Luke and nature's religion, which is about having respect for each other and the planet. Anyone who believes otherwise will be judged accordingly.